If you will enter in the main menu, then in the terminal and finally in the story, inside the Project Angel of Clemency you will find a side quest called the Doctor's Coffee. To find it you have to visit the central upper side of the Navia region. To be precise, you have to use the space rift called Cetus Island. From here you have to use the main road, then the staircase in order to reach the central tent. Get behind it, and in front of another identical tent you will find an NPC called the Slayer you have to speak to in order to receive the quest you came for. For its first objective you have to visit the central left side of the Astra region. To be precise, you have to start from the space rift called the Shelter. From here you have to cross the bridge and enter inside the huge building. Inside you speak with the third NPC on the right called the Fennie. At the end of the conversation you will receive a new objective that will ask you to gather 3 Thornmatoes. To find those you have to go back to the Shelter space rift. From here you have to turn to the left and get out from this area. Then proceed further until the crossroad. Around this crossroad you will find 3 plants you will be able to gather in order to obtain some Thornmatoes for the quest. Now that you have them, go back to the Shelter space rift. Cross the bridge in front of it and in the next building speak again with Fennie. During the conversation this time you will need to choose the second option called hand over the Thornmatoes. At the end of the conversation the objective will be updated and you will need to go back to the central upper side of the Navia region, where you have to use the space rift called the Cetus Island. From here you have to use the main road in order to reach the central tent and then behind it reach again the second one. In front of it you will need to speak with the Slayer NPC in order to progress in the questline. For the next objective go back in front of the previous tent. Here you will find an NPC called Claire you have to speak to in order to progress in the quest. Now go back to speak with Slayer in order to receive the next quest of the chain you need to complete. During the conversation you will need to use the first option called Promise to Help in order to receive the quest. Now that you have it, go to the central part of the Banges area. To be precise, you need to use the Banges Dock Space Rift. From its location you have to turn to the right and at the end of the passage use the staircase going to the right. Keep going up until you will reach an NPC called Collie that you have to speak to. At the end of the conversation you will be asked to gather 5 potatoes. To find the potatoes you have to visit the bottom right corner of the Banges area. To be precise, you have to use the space rift called Astra Shelter. From its location use the ramp going down, then the staircase going to the left. Here in front of the building you will find several shining items you can collect that are the potatoes. To find more, get behind the building and staying along the left mountain wall you will find a huge pipe below you have to reach. From its location you have to jump down and then turn around. Here along the mountain wall going to the right you will find several shining items on the ground that are other potatoes to collect. Also, once you will reach the end of the overhanging, jump down. Here along the mountain wall going to the right you will find other potatoes you will be able to collect as well. Finally, that you have enough, you have to go back to the central part of the Banges area. To be precise, use again the space rift called Banges Dock. From its location turn to the right, go upstairs and reach again the Collie NPC you have to speak to. During the conversation you will need to use the option hand over the potatoes in order to complete the objective. At the end of the conversation you will be asked to buy some carbonated water. To do so you have to turn to the left and jump over the fence. Immediately after, on the right, you will find an NPC called Harriet you have to speak to. During the conversation use the option Browse the store. Here you will be able to buy the carbonated water and you will need 3 of them. Now that you have it, turn to the right and after using the staircase, speak with Collie again in order to progress in the story. For the next step, you have to open your map and go back to the central upper side of the Navia region. To be precise, use the space rift called the Cetus Island. Again, you have to use the main road in order to reach the central tent and behind it you have to reach the other one. Here you will need to speak with the Slayer in order to progress in the story. At the end of the conversation you have to turn around and get in front of the previous tent. Here you have to speak with the Collie in order to complete this part of the quest. For the third part you have to get behind the central tent and speak again with Slayer that will give you the third quest. For this quest you have to open your map and click on the icon in the bottom left corner of the map. From here you will be able to enter inside the Hykros area. Then move to the bottom side of the map, where you will find the space rift called the Hykros you have to use. On the entrance of this area, you will find an NPC called Gerard you have to speak to. After the conversation behind him, you have to go upstairs in order to enter inside the building. Once you will reach the central part of it, you have to use the staircase you will notice on the left all the way up. Then reach the opposite side of the circular area where you have to speak with Henry. At the end of the conversation, you will be asked to gather 5 firedragon fruits. To find those, you have to go to the bottom right corner of the Navi region, where you have to use the space rift called South 7th Day Forest. On the left side of the space rift, you have to cross the waterfall. Immediately after, along the right overhanging, you will find several plants you will be able to collect that will give you the firedragon fruits. Once you will collect 5 of them, open your map again and use the icon in the bottom left corner of the map in order to go back to the Hykros. Go back inside the mine building and use the staircase in order to get back up. Finally, reach again Henry in order to complete this part of the quest. At this point, you have to go back to the central upper side of the Navi region, where you have to use again the Cetus Island Space Rift. From where, after reaching the central tent, get behind it in order to find the Slayer that you have to speak to. At the end of the conversation, turn around and get in front of the previous tent in order to speak with a Collie that will allow you to complete the quest. This also will complete it in the story progression, so you'll be able to finally claim your reward.